Hello folks, just a quick video. So, yes. Last night, I woke up at about 4 in the morning because there's a lot of things on my mind, so I spoke to God about all that stuff. Yeah. It's quite interesting actually. Yeah. Well, yeah, I said to God about all the issues. You know, especially hope and that sort of thing, because obviously I've said before that my hope was gone, you know, about 6 months ago when I found out that my dogs had been sold, because obviously I believed that I'd get them back. I thought God was saying that we'll get the dogs back, because he took them away for a reason. So yeah, so I was hoping for that, and hoping for other things as well. And as soon as I knew the dogs were being sold, all the hope of other things as well just went yeah. And so I was talking to God about it last night, because at the moment, certainly I'd say financially is a concern. There's a huge issue. There has been for a long time. It all goes back to when I had the dogs, and you know, I had Molly and Chewy originally, then Lucy. But then because it's a case of taking them to the vets, I had to learn to drive. And because typically driving instructors, they want you to fail, so they don't really teach you how to pass the test. They teach you quite bad things, so you don't really pass the test for a few times, so they can get more money from you. That happens a lot. So that cost me a lot of money, so I had debt from that. But at that time, Chewy was mating with Lucy and Molly, so there was puppies, so therefore there was money from that to help. Okay. Then I eventually passed my test, so then the insurance became higher, so I needed money to pay that. Then, you know, needed a better car because got Amber, and then kept Riley, so that made 5. So okay, I need a car which I can easily fit 5 into when they're fully grown. So I had to get a bigger car for that purpose. And typically it's a case of, if you drive, you may know that if you buy, certainly if you start off with second-hand cars, you're trying to find a car that's suitable to you, a car that you enjoy driving, that's the right sort of size for what you need. It took me a while to find the Civic. But once I found the Civic, I realised, okay, that's the car that I want really. That's ideal. But then, of course, Mickey came back, so that made 6. Okay, now we're getting a problem because the Civic is big enough for 5, not necessarily for 6. Okay, we need to start thinking about this now. So I got an estate car. Well, now, first of all, I got the Freelander, thinking the Freelander would be big enough. Freelander not big enough, so I had to sell that. And because the Civic was actually, there's more space in a Civic than there is in a Freelander, which is amazing, but that is true. So I got the Mercedes C220, I think it was, which was bigger. Okay, that had more space in the back. So that worked for a while until that died. And then I took a massive loss on that one. And then it was around that time that the dogs went anyway. Yeah, and when they went, I had debt. Because obviously when you get cars, you've got to get them through MOTs, you've got to have work done on them to get them through MOTs, you've got to do road tax, you've got to do all of that. And at one point I did actually have 2 cars, so that means that's increasing 2 lots of insurance. Yeah. And yeah, it was just a case that I had dogs, and the plan was Molly would have her last litter, but Amber, and then we had Gracie, well, Gracie was very young and Riley was young enough that Riley could mate for a few more years. So Riley would have pups with Amber for a few more years, and then with Gracie as well. And then, as the plan was in the future to have the great grandpuppies of Molly, Chewy, Lucy, and Amber, that their female pups would be mating with Jacob, at least for a few years, so we would be able to keep one of those, and therefore they would be still young and need attention when Molly, Chewy, Lucy, and Amber had passed. Yeah, so that was the plan. Then, when they were took, unfortunately, I was at the stage when they were took where it was at max debt. There had been stages when I had no debt at all. If they had been taken at that stage when I had no debt, it wouldn't have been a problem because I had no debt. But they were taken at the stage when it was max debt. So you're looking at around about £8,000 to £9,000 in debt, which would have been paid off. Molly's pups, Amber's pups, Gracie's pups, that would have paid off all of that money, all that debt. It was lined up that was going to happen. Then the dogs were taken and not returned, so that didn't happen. So I was left with a debt that I could not repay. I couldn't even keep up with the interest on the debt. Yeah. So last night spending time with Father, saying, okay, in around about November 2001, Father said to me, knowledge, wisdom and understanding you have, what's next? And by that point I'd already understood. I should have been asking for him to be my source. But then last night, so what I was talking to Father about is, okay, I asked you to be my source, but at no point in time have you said you're going to clear that debt. At no point in time have you said you're going to give me victory in the areas that I've been hoping for victory. Because that's the point. Just because God says, because Father says, yes, I wasn't guilty of causing suffering to my dogs. That is true, I wasn't guilty. That does not mean that I'll be found not guilty. It should. According to our understanding, according to the world, it should mean that. But it doesn't mean that at all. And the fact, as I said, the fact that God wanted our dogs taken away for a reason, it does not mean that they're going to come back. Again, it should. Because our understanding is, okay, they were taken away for a reason. That reason has happened. Now they should be coming back. That's our understanding. That's understanding according to the world system. According to the world that we grew up in. But the problem is now we're not supposed to be of that system. Yeshua said, you are not of this world. If you're not of this world, then it means its ways of dealing with such things you're not of anymore. You're not supposed to be using those ways. So, last night, 4 o'clock in the morning, it was just a case of saying, okay. At the moment, Father, I have no idea what's going to go on. I had all this hope that this, that, and the other would happen. Now I don't know. I honestly don't know. And so it's interesting. But so it's now a case of saying, okay, I've got to learn to deal with this sort of stuff according to your way, not according to... And, 4 in the morning saying to Father, in that case, I may very well not have any victories in the areas where I was hoping to have victory. That may very well be the case, because in this world, it is very, very evident that the good, the innocent, don't win. The rich and powerful, who have got rich and powerful by being, not good, not innocent, They win. According to the world we live in, they win. Now, according to the world we live in, it doesn't really matter what you've done. If you're rich and powerful, you can get away with it. You can. Because if you've got enough money, you can get the right sort of legal team. They can get you off with anything. Oh, they really can. It makes one heck of a difference. If you've got money, if you've got prestige, if you've got position, it doesn't really matter what you do. But if you haven't, it doesn't matter if you're innocent, you can still be found guilty. Because this system won't favour you, even though if you're in this world. Now, one thing that is a slight issue from that is sometimes, if as a supposed child of God, you do things according to the system of the world, sometimes you will have victory. The only reason you will have victory is because the devil, who is the god of this world, wants you to keep on using this system, knowing that this system will lead to your destruction. He wants you to believe in this system and that this system will work for you because it has. Because he's allowed it to work because he wants to bring you in and therefore pull you away from God's system. But generally speaking, no, this system is not going to do us any favours. Well, because put it this way, if you are a Christian and you were in a position of wealth, power, prestige, position, generally speaking, you give that up. Because if you've given everything to God, you've given all of that to God. Therefore, you give that up. And therefore, you are no longer a person of position, of power, prestige, of money. Because you've given that up to God. Now, that doesn't mean to say there aren't people in the church that don't have power, prestige, position or money. Because they do, but they haven't given their life to God. So it's a case of understanding. All that I hoped for was based upon my understanding of a system that I'm no longer part of. And a system that I shouldn't be relying upon. That doesn't mean in any way, shape or form that I won't get victory in all those areas. It doesn't. Because, as I've said ever since July, I'm very much a baby when it comes to being a son of God and knowing his nature. So therefore, his system on dealing with these things, I don't know that yet. I don't. So it's going to be very interesting to find out. But it's a bit scary. I mean, it was only the other week that I went to the shop to get some stuff, and then my card was refused when I went to the checkout hole in the wall thing. It says insufficient sums. That's never happened. Never. So my finances are worse now than they ever have been. A year or so after, I asked God to be my source. Believing in God that he will deal with this stuff. But believing in God because of thinking that God would use the same system of justice as the world that we apparently live in, which has never really given that system to people like myself anyway. Yeah. So it was interesting at 4 this morning. Definitely interesting. That was a very interesting conversation I had with Father. Yeah. So there you go. I thought I'd share. So you take care. God bless. Indeed. Have a good one. Be a blessing. Be blessed. And have a fantastic rest of the week. Enjoy. And learn about the system that you're called into and how that one works. Indeed. Take care. God bless. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.